I'm Mike Huckman at the Bio Buzz Center, and it's a pleasure to welcome David Thomas, who is the Senior Director of Industry Research and Policy Analysis at the Biotechnology Innovation Organization. David, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you and your teams are out with two big reports. The first one is an annual one on emerging company trends. The second one comes along every so often, and that one is on clinical development success rates. So let's start there. What are the key findings? Because you actually got some rather intriguing data that provides some keen insights, I think.
Yes, we just released this report about a week ago, and some of the data in this report has never been looked at before. So it's the largest study of its kind. It's 10,000 completed clinical programs that have transitioned from either progressing forward or going back into a suspended program.
How far back did you go?
10 years. So it's a 10-year analysis. And for the first time, we looked at three unique areas that haven't been looked at before and asked the question, are rare disease programs more successful than others? What about biomarker strategies? Are those really helping companies have higher success rates? And a look at the chronic high prevalence disease areas.
And when you say biomarkers, those are studies that basically look at patients who have a certain signal about the thing that they're targeting, and only enrolling those particular patients.
These are specifically selection biomarkers to stratify the population that you're enrolling into the clinical trials. And that part of the study, we did that in collaboration with Amplion, which is a biomarker-based company. And the results from that show overall that you can go from 1 in 10 drugs making it from phase 1 all the way to approval to in fact 1 in 4 utilizing the biomarker strategy. It was a
huge difference.
Is a very big difference. It's a small subset of the total. Only 5% of the transitions actually had utilized biomarkers. But in those cases, we're seeing quite an increase in the overall rate, and in fact, at every single phase, it's higher.
What else was surprising or stuck out for you?
Well, we also found that with rare disease. So also looking at...
Which is a very hot area of focus right now.
Yes, and we see a lot of investment going into that, which is in the other report, where we can track rare disease in and of itself, and we see a lot of activity in that space, a lot of interesting platform technologies able to address rare disease. And the outcome, though, in this report is 1 in 4 as well, making it first in man, phase 1, all the way to approval.
One of the things that stuck out for me in that particular report, though, is that phase 2 is where most stuff stumbles.
Yes, we have seen that in prior studies, that phase 2 is in fact the toughest phase to get through. And this most recent analysis actually shows it's even lower than previous. Under 1/3 of programs make it from phase 2 into phase 3.
So let's shift now to the emerging company report. What were your key findings there?
We found that venture capital, for example, of the 3 different investment areas that we looked at, venture capital had a record high for biotech, 6.9
in 2015.
In 2015, 6.9 billion. That's a record high for biotech, towering over a decent year in 2014, in fact.
And what do you think's driving that? And where did most of that money go to? What types of companies and programs?
A large amount, in fact 2 billion of that 6.9 billion went into oncology.
That was the largest tranche of any particular indication?
And that's mainly driven by immuno-oncology, which isn't just one modality and one target. We're talking about 4 different modalities going after at least 15 targets, but also a lot of potential combination studies out there. So that field is mushrooming, and that's where we've seen the venture investment heading.
And you also saw 80 Series A raises last year. Series A, for those who aren't familiar with it, is kind of like the first official get-going funding after, family and friends maybe. And you saw 80 of those last year, and it was the largest in almost a decade.
Yeah, so those are first-time Series A commitments. Typically, it's a syndicate of a number of venture groups, including corporate venture capital, that's coming in. And that had been below 80 for at least 5 or 6 years. And so we were finally seeing more investment coming into the early stage, which in 2014, we actually had a dip in total dollars going into Series A. So it was nice to see it come back in 2015 with the overall market being as strong as it was.
So what does bio and what should the life sciences and biotechnology sector do with all this information?
Well, with the investment dollars, from that standpoint, they're going to be building on the innovative platforms that they have been working on.
It allows the work to be done.
That's right. That's right. And I think the other report, in terms of the clinical trial success, it helps the portfolio managers within the companies that are dealing with sometimes 50 to 100 programs spread their risk based on historical success rates, and also for investors looking to diversify their portfolios. It gives them an idea of what is working and what's not. And hopefully for the companies, they'll take a look at what we've seen with biomarkers and employ more of those patient selection strategies in their clinical trials.
David, for people who are interested, where can they find these reports?
They can download the report at bio.org/IA reports.
Both of them are there?
Both of them.
We're ending all of the interviews this year at the Buzz Center coming back to the theme of this year's convention, which is, as you know, one word, imagine.
That's right.
David Thomas, imagine what?
Well, I imagine an entire industry that has higher success rates than we've been seeing for quite a long time, which is going from 1 in 10 up to even beyond 1 in 4, because it is such a long, difficult road to get a drug approved. It would be incredible to move the needle on that and see higher success rates. That's what I imagine in the future.
Great. David Thomas, Senior Director at the Biotechnology Innovation Organization. Thanks for joining us here at the Bio Buzz Center.